This is the Sony RX10 Mark IV with a 1-inch sensor. The camera shooting me right now is a flagship Sony Alpha One full-frame camera. I do have a full review in another video of this camera going into video and photo and all sorts of features, but in this video I'm going to compare it to the Sony Alpha One in terms of picture quality, bokeh, stabilization, dynamic range, low light. There's a lot to see and a lot to compare, so we're going to do that right now. I recently went to a very interesting photo shoot at an air museum, and I brought both cameras with me. The $1,700 2017 introduced 1-inch sensor RX10 Mark IV and the $6,500 flagship 8K 50 megapixel sensor Alpha One to test them side by side in the same scenes to see how well they compared. Not a fair test, right?
No.
Let's do it anyway. The RX10's small 1-inch sensor is dwarfed by the Alpha One's full-frame sensor. Please get a pen and paper or something to make notes on, as I'm going to be showing you a series of pictures. Some were shot with the Alpha One and some with the RX10 Mark IV. Do you think you can tell the difference?
You talking to me?
Yes, you.
Use the numbers on the lower left of the pictures on screen and make notes which shots were taken with the RX10 Mark IV and which with the Alpha One. Let's go. It's not so easy, right? Well, if you need to, go back and take a look again. This will be scored, so don't mess it up. No pressure now. And the results are in. They were all taken with the RX10.
What? Hey, come on, that's not fair.
Okay, I know I cheated. Sorry about that. Let's do it again, this time, no BS.
Okay, this is legit, really. You're gonna see two shots. Just say which one is the RX10 Mark IV. Is it this one here, or is it this one here? This one is the RX10, and this one is the Alpha One. In this picture, or this picture? This is the Alpha One, and this is the RX10. See, it's not too hard, is it? Is it her, or is it her? And she was taken with the Alpha One, and she was taken with the RX10 Mark IV. Our next model. Which picture? A or B? B was taken with the RX10 Mark IV, A with the Alpha One. Our next beautiful model, picture 1 or picture 2? Picture 2 is the RX10 Mark IV. Picture 1, the Alpha One. You get the idea. See how well you do. It was not so easy, was it? The RX10 Mark IV has a very versatile range of 24 to 600 millimeters, and one lens means not having to change lenses and no sensor spots to deal with. And the price? Well, if you were to buy the A1 body and then a lens that has 600 millimeter reach, you'd have to spend 3 to 4 times as much and lug around a much bigger system.
Oh, this is heavy.
As opposed to the compact and light RX10 Mark IV. But the RX10's smaller sensor means there's less surface area for the pixels to capture light, so it's theoretically going to take a hit in ISO and low light performance. But the RX10 is a 20 megapixel sensor. Compare that to the 50 megapixel sensor on the A1 with smaller pixels, which means they cram into the chip, and that detracts from the low light advantage from the A1. And also the aperture of the RX10 is faster than a comparable 600mm lens. But on the other hand, the RX10 was introduced many years ago, and the technology has improved and chip sensor technology has gotten better. So when you look at all these factors, who's going to do better in low light? Let's find out. Let's darken the room and do the test, and this is how the room looks to the naked eye approximately. And here is how it looks with the RX10 Mark IV, everything set to auto, 4K 30, and here in the Alpha One. It looks brighter and a little less noisy, but the difference is not as great as one might think, all considered. Now let's put the cameras side by side again and stress the small sensor in the RX10 Mark IV in mixed lighting so we can compare the dynamic range of the two cameras.
Here we can see both cameras together, and this is in mixed lighting with shadow, so I'm going to be moving from light to shadow to give you an idea about dynamic range. And going from light to shadow, we can also see video quality differences. The cameras are set flat. Creative style on the RX10 is flat, no picture profiles on either camera, no HDR, just straight from the camera settings. Only thing is exposure is down, minus 0.3. With Sony cameras, I tend to put the exposure down just a hair because it tends to run a little hot.
A little hot? How about completely on fire? The RX10 was totally blown out. But interestingly enough, on this scene, with the white fur on the cat, you compare the Alpha One with the RX10, it's not really blown out. Let's redo the previous scene, setting the exposure down one more notch to minus 0.7, and we'll leave the Alpha One at minus 0.3 because it was okay.
This exposure is down another notch, down minus 0.7. So let's see if this is any better with the exposure down a little further here in mixed lighting, and then we'll turn it down one more notch even after that. This exposure down minus 1. Minus 1 exposure is down. So we'll take a look. On the A1, it's still at minus 0.3.
So you can see how much better it looks with the exposure down, so use that exposure control when necessary. Yes, it does have a smaller chip, and this is going to be the trade-off. What about bokeh? How much do you trade off in terms of bokeh? So let's take a look right now. Here is a scene outdoors with the RX10 Mark IV. Look at the leaves in the background and see the blurred out background. Compare that to the Alpha One, and you can see, yes, the Alpha One definitely is creamier. The leaves are more out of focus in the background. Here, with the foreground even closer, the difference is more pronounced. You do have a more out of focus background in both cameras, but again, more pronounced in the Alpha One. But the built-in long zoom and macro lens of the RX10 Mark IV still produces some really nice bokeh, as evidenced by these photos. It really comes down to framing your shot the right way where you know you'll be able to get that background out of focus nicely. There has been many improvements in image stabilization over the years, so let's compare the two cameras. We'll compare them out at 200mm, the maximum with the Alpha One's Tamron lens. Here is the RX10 Mark IV at 200mm. Look at the stabilization. We will compare that now with the Alpha One. And you can also see the bokeh difference in the background as well. And the image is more stable, more smooth. But for giggles, let's look at 600mm at the RX10 Mark IV, and you can really see how much tighter and better it is. Wait a minute, does that look like... is that...
You think it's a virus? Virus, bacteria?
So probably a lot of people right now are getting upset at even the thought of comparing a full-frame professional camera to a 1-inch super zoom travel hobbyist type camera. But I think it still makes sense to do that to get a general idea of what you're going to lose and what the trade-offs are between that full frame and 1-inch sensor. How much do you really give up in terms of picture quality, stabilization, and other features? And hopefully you got an idea in this video for your own purposes to see if this is acceptable or not for you. But I hope this sheds some light, literally, on the differences between the two cameras on a daily basis, on a general basis. And thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and comment. I do answer. See you in the next video.